Good day. In the waning days of his first administration as the 45th president of America, President Trump started an initiative. If we look deep into that initiative, we will now see that there was some an intent towards good neighborliness in that initiative. That initiative was called the Abraham's Accord. President Trump wanted Israel to be at peace with his neighbors, and he also wanted his neighbors to be at peace with Israel. So what did President Trump do? He initiated meetings between the Israeli government, the UAE government, the Sudanese government, and almost all the governments around the Middle Eastern region there to try and make peace with Israel so that they will be at peace and they can trade and they can have one big happy family. It didn't happen. The Abraham's Accord succeeded to some extent. UAE and Bahrain signed on, but eventually, in his second iteration as president, he has come to meet a much more belligerent Israel, and Israel has gone full circle, initiated several wars, and is carrying out a brutal attack on the people of Palestine to the extent that they have all manners of names called the Israeli regime. That attempt to try and get good neighborliness with the Israeli regime and its neighbors has been shattered and destroyed. I could read in that particular attempt an attempt at peace. And now again, President Trump has put himself forward as the president of peace. We stand at a very important threshold. We stand at a threshold where for the very first time since 1867, a Russian president will be visiting Alaska after they sold it to America for $7.2 million. For the very first time in 3 years, an American president will be engaging with a Russian president. And for the very first time, the co-belligerents and the two opposing parties, the leaders of the two opposing parties, one, America, and two, Russia, Putin and Donald Trump, will be meeting. And as has been revealed by both Putin and Trump, at the core of this meeting will be how to find peace in Ukraine and end the Ukraine-Russian war. Good day and welcome to my channel, Ebima Amungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the opinions I express, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. We have the full list of the participants in the meeting that will take place in Alaska. The list is out, and the American delegation will be led by President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is also the National Security Advisor, acting, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. It's a very lean and effective team on the American side. We also have on the Russian delegation President Vladimir Putin, Defense Minister Andrei Borisov, and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. We have Finance Minister Anton Sulianov, aide to the President Yuri Ushakov, and President Special Envoy Kirill Dmitriev. Most of the names there are not strange or none of them is new, but it shows also the intent that beyond the discussion on peace, there are also two bilateral issues that the Americans want to discuss. And that is the intent to discuss economic ties and improvement on economic relationships. This attempt by President Trump for peace is very unique. He has had to reach this point, and today, to make sure that he stops those characters, those institutionally entrenched people in America called the deep state and the neocons, and he released, there was a big revolution today again to undermine the people and the institutions that had always undermined any attempt to build better relationships with Russia. Today, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, declassified a document that showed that the hand of the former CIA director, in under the Obama regime, James Clapper. It showed that James Clapper did everything to instigate and create the Obama Gate. The DNI director there, he was the director of national intelligence, James Clapper, the director of national chiefs, urged them to make sure that they released information that tended to implicate Russia, even though that information was cooked. In releasing this information at this time, now, this crucial time, Tulsi Gabbard is actually trying to undermine the credibility of any institution and anybody who might come and insist on Russiagate and call Trump a Putin's puppet. They have taken preemptive action to make sure that all those people who come up and say things against Trump for trying to build relationship with the Russians are discredited. Of course, Russia has the singular misfortune of being one of the most hated countries in the West, if not the most hated countries in the West. Among the elites in the West, Russophobia is at a level that has never been seen before. It is very high. I can rationalize and give all manners of reasons why. I can call on to Russia's Tsarist past, where there was a lot of pogroms in Russia that brought a lot of Russians to America. I can also possibly talk about how a lot of people ran away from the influence of the Soviets during the aftermath of the World War II in 1945, and many also ended up in the West. I can give many reasons as to why there's Russophobia in the West, but it can't take away the fact that the Russophobia in the West is so intense now, it's at a dangerous level where nobody in the elite class of the West wants to even engage with the Russians. They cook up and they contrive every single thing to do harm to Russia. But this is a different Russia. Nobody foresaw this Russia. In the Bible, the Christian book, there's a phrase about time and chance. Russia's growth and Russia's resilience now has nothing to do just with Russia. It has to do more with the rising star in the east that nobody saw coming now. That is now the support of Russia and the place where every single country that has disagreements with the West go to for succor and support, and that's China. Prior to this war starting in February 2022, Putin went to Xi Jinping and visited him just before the Winter Olympics there and told him about his actions. Xi Jinping assured him that he understood the reality he was facing and that he could go ahead and do whatever he wanted to do. China did not take the path of the West. They did not sanction Russia. They may not have sold arms and traded with Russia in a manner that would show that they are supporting the war. But they said that since the sanctions placed on Russia by the West was unilateral, they didn't see the need to. And besides, they needed the products that Russia was selling to them, which is hydrocarbon assets, oil and gas. They needed it for their own national security. China, we should remember, is a country of 1.5 billion. That their economy is now an $18 trillion economy. They manufacture a lot of things, including chemical products. They want to feed a lot of all their 1.54 billion population, and they need fertilizer. They need a lot of products that are the components of the petrochemical industry. And it is for that reason that even the Germans, who are very big at manufacturing petrochemicals, have had to move a lot of their industries to China. BASF, the biggest chemical companies in the world, built their largest factory in the past 2 years in China, $10 billion. That's the kind of investment they make now. They've had to move into China because China has made the cost of electricity so cheap. So cheap. They produce by far more electricity, 3 times the amount of electricity that America produces. And their per capita income, or their particular capital rates of electricity is very low. Besides that, there's an industrial supply chain. There's a whole suite of things that give that their market, so make it so competitive that these days, the harm that went to Europe from breaking ties with Russia is a benefit to China, and it's deepening the Chinese economy. China and Russia built new relationships. As the West sanctioned and the West left the Russian market, they created a boom to Chinese automotive industries, to Chinese computer numerical controls manufacturers, to Chinese products and produce that are mostly used in the civilian realm, but also could be used in the military realm. Now, in these days, in this period when this war, the Ukraine-Russia war, has become one that is a drone war, the Chinese, by their vast low-earth economy, are the big suppliers of all the components that both countries use for drones, both Ukraine and Russia. So China, in coming out and being who they are in this new age, created a reality that helped in supporting the Russian economy to be more resilient, to be more able to, and robust, and able to withstand the whole attempt to destroy it. Because even though the West realized that they could not engage militarily with the Russians, they chose to use the Ukrainians as a proxy. It still didn't mean that they could not do harm to the Russians and create economic collapse for the Russian economy. But that didn't happen. BRICS was there. Indians bought Russian hydrocarbon. They needed it. They wanted it, and they absorbed it in large volumes and reprocessed it, refined it, and still sold it to the Europeans. And the same thing too with the Brazilians. Everybody increased their trade with Russia, and this trade included products like fertilizer. So Russia had the benefit of time and chance, and that now, that is not to say there was no pain in Russia. $300 billion of their assets for sovereign wealth was frozen. They've been kicked out of the SWIFT system. There is a big attempt to disrupt their ability to trade. It is an inconvenience, but not that an inconvenience that is disrupting their economy, but it is still an inconvenience. They'd rather trade with the world now. They always wanted to. Now, they have a business-like president, and this team that he has taken to Alaska and for this meeting tomorrow with President Trump shows that the intent is improvement in relationship between America and, if possibly, the West. We saw that the West, led by Britain, the Kestama and the British Empire and all that Britain represents, are still not there yet. I already said the Russophobia is strong. The intent and the desire to do damage to Russia is still strong. And President Trump is an aberration, totally different from all the thinking of the West. I said that though he may be using peace as an off-ramp, I think he doesn't want to support the Ukrainians, and nothing in his body will make him do that. So peace is a very convenient off-ramp. And today it also emerged that President Trump made a very brazen request of the finance minister of Norway. When he called to discuss tariffs, he also talked to the finance minister and said he wanted the Nobel Prize, Jens Stoltenberg, as I gather. It was in Reuters today that he did mention specifically that he wanted the Nobel Peace Prize. It may be like a joke, but it just may be that he really does have his eyes on it. Because, like I've said, Obama didn't deserve it, wasn't deserving of it in any form. I still consider Obama one of the worst presidents America has ever produced. And yet, he was given that Nobel Prize on the notion that he will do good. He didn't do good. He did harm to the world, destroyed Libya completely, destroyed Syria, destroyed the Middle East, and ultimately destroyed Europe because all the refugees that went to the Middle East is the reason why there's so much hatred and so much confusion now. The AfD and the rise of the nationalist parties in Europe has a lot to do with Obama's policies and Obama's bombing of Syria and the destabilization and destruction of Libya and all the actions he took in the Middle East. So I am not a fan of Obama. I've always said it. I feel that he was very disingenuous in many things. And now we're coming to find out that he planned specifically, went ahead actively to try and stop a, a elected president of America go against the will of the people. That's a coup. They have accused him of a coup. It's up to the process to find out his role, but he has been discredited for it. So we see that President Trump does indeed want this Nobel Peace Prize because Obama got it. And he has done all the things, checked all the boxes that Obama checked, won an election a second time, but he still needs that big Peace Prize. I have always said also that be careful what you wish for. And we are all prisoners of our aspiration. The day you say you want to be a lawyer, you start to go to study law and start to find all the requirements to study law. If you want to lose weight, you start going to a gym to register. President Trump wants to win the Nobel Prize, and today he has said he has stopped 5 wars, and he wants to see if he can stop the 6th one. President Trump is not optimistic. He has given this meeting a 25% chance of producing an outcome that will lead to peace. But just like how he's been practical, he says it's a filling out meeting and that it is one that he will use in sensing the sincerity of the Russians as regards to making peace. It is not in doubt. The Russians have held their position clearly as to what it should be, that regarding what their stand and how they want an improvement on relationship with the West. That is not in doubt. For 30 years, President Putin made a move to try and get closer to the West. He was the most West-loving president Russia has seen in generations, but he was snubbed. And his position regarding this war has not changed. It has not changed. There is if we want to see an impact of what has happened to Ukraine, it will be best for us to look at it will be best for us to appreciate how much the Ukrainian battlefield has changed in all these years. It has changed, and since Boris Johnson came and intervened in the war, it has changed to the point where we now have five oblasts, 5, including if you add Crimea, being taken away from the Russians, from the Ukrainians. 5 oblasts have been taken away from the Ukrainians, and it is a sad thing to see. This is where Ukraine was in 2014 to 2022, when all these issues were going on. The Russians, the Ukrainians were having a problem with the 2 oblasts of Donetsk and Luhansk. This is from the Institute of the Study of War. They are very good. They have been updating on this war. And this is where Russia annexed Crimea, and the rebels annexed this part of the Donbass, and the Ukrainian army over the next 4 years started to bombard this region. Today, this is where the war has its battle line as at August 14, 2025. And these are the oblasts that Russia has taken. The part that they have not taken is the part that Russia now says the Ukrainians should leave behind and leave and relinquish fully the parts of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson. Crimea is already a done deal. So it has been a big loss for the Ukrainians. It has been a very big loss. So when we look at it and we ask Zelensky, all the posturing, all the attempts to damage Russia, all the attempts to make them pay or do however it is, it hasn't brought the kind of outcomes that the European Union wanted. Not because of the European Union did not have teeth. They did. After all, they are discussing their 19th round of sanctions against Russia. They feel they do, but the blowback of those sanctions have damaged their economy, damaged their democracy, damaged their credibility. Because while they are so focused on Putin and calling him names, the world is also seeing what's going on in Gaza. We have two possible scenarios of warfare to compare European actions with. And the Europeans and the West have no morals. It's just a sad commentary of where the world is. Their hatred and their Russophobia is there for all to see. There's so much going on in Gaza, unfed children, and yet we don't see the kind of condemnation as they see in Russia and in Europe. So the world looks at it, the world, the global south, the countries of Asia and ASEAN, the countries of Malaysia, Indonesia, all the countries that are the other parts of the world, the 190, 50 countries that are not part of the European Union. They see what's going on and they see the double standards and they just don't understand what is driving Europe. So at this point and at this point in history where President Trump is about to meet with Putin, we don't really know what's going to happen. Some people are still worried that even Trump himself said his expectations are 25%. And a lot of people feel that Trump will be played. But Trump has shown that consistently that he believes that better relationships with Russia is for the benefit of the world and for the benefit of America. He also believes that it was a bad strategic move in the long run by the Biden administration to make Russia to move closer to China in a period and a time when China is now a major and peer competitor to America. And with the strategic and military assets of Russia, combined with that of China, the manufacturing and innovative excellence of China, the Biden administration has created a very formidable foe. I have said it already, and I wonder why many people choose not to look at the human element in this reality that we see. Biden was pushed by hatred, and time and chance brought him and all his co-travelers in Europe, with the most reluctant then being Scholz. Scholz was very reluctant in this project, but he was nudged and pushed into it. And the Nord Stream pipeline was blown up so that he would help him in making up his mind quicker. Time and chance brought the biggest element in that equation, America and the Europeans together to fight against Putin and try to punish Putin, support Ukraine, pour arms into Ukraine, use the Ukrainians as a NATO proxy, but that didn't happen. Now Time and chance again have brought Donald Trump. This time, he himself, maybe not looking for revenge, but definitely not hoping to help the Ukrainians, because he has history with them. Zelensky and Ukrainian whistleblower in the National Security Council were the responsible for his being impeached the first time. He's not a fan of Zelensky. He says it all the time. He's a human being, and he has chosen the off-ramp called peace to avoid further expenditure for this Ukrainian project. Besides, there are other issues in the world larger than Ukraine, bigger than Ukraine. Other issues that affect the well-being of the world. And though we see that it's now carrying on and talking about peace, we actually sincerely do hope that tomorrow's meeting will produce peace. However it takes, some people feel that the process towards peaceful resolution and diplomatic resolution of this war is on its way. Let's just hope that the meeting tomorrow between Trump and Putin does eventually lead to the beginning of the end of the Ukraine-Russia war. This is where I end my video for today. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. If you do think that this meeting will eventually lead to peace, leave it in the comment section. If you think that peace Trump is deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize, he has put out and is very bullish about it, put it also in the comment section. If you think that the Europeans need to change their ways and improve upon, take humble pie and try and reach out to the Russians and make peace, put it in the comment section also. Whatever opinion you have, put it in the comment section. And see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and share. Goodbye.